told that the wife of Bath is somewhat deaf. One of the ironies about this is we will find out later when she introduces herself with a some 20-page long personal prologue before her tale. This woman loves to talk. She talks all the stinking time. Do you know anybody like this who just talks all the time? In other words, when you see his or her phone number to call you, you're like, oh man, this is going to take a while. Because once she starts telling a story, it can take forever before the story is actually told. That's the wife of Bath. She loves to talk. And yet, note the irony, she loves to talk, but she's a little bit deaf. In other words, she can't always hear what you're saying, but she's really good at always talking and making sure she knows what she's saying. Let's read what she has to say. Somewhat deaf, which was a pity. In making cloth, she sewed so great a bent. I'm at the top of page 109. She bettered those of Ypes and Ghent. And in all the parish not a dame dared stir towards the altar steps in front of her, and if indeed they did so, rapt was she as to be quite put out of charity. In other words, she has a gig herself. She likes to sew clothes. And if you're going to get married, you better come to her to get your dress. And if you don't come to her to get your dress, she's going to go to your wedding and then she's going to say under her breath, just loud enough where everybody can hear it, well, that's not a very pretty dress at all for someone to get married in. In other words, the wife of Bath, let's write it in our notes, she is outright a major character. And she is a major character. Let's go ahead, by the way, and just say it right now. Chaucer's invention of the wife of Bath stands alone as one of the most remarkable characters ever created. She is, in fact, one of the very first feminist voices. One of the very first feminist voices. In other words, she speaks strongly about the rights of women and how women should be taken as equals with men, or maybe even, she will argue, they're superior. When we get to the wife of Bath, you'll know what I'm talking about. Let's go back now to page 109 and kind of take a look at how she dresses. Her kerchiefs were of finely woven ground. I dared have sworn they weighed a good 10 pound. The ones she wore on Sunday on her head. Her hose were of the finest scarlet red and gartered tight. Her shoes were soft and new. Bold was her face, handsome and red in hue. A worthy woman all her life. What's more, she'd have 5 husbands, all at the church door, apart from other company and youth. No need just now to speak of that, forsooth. In other words, she's been married 5 times, he says, and then she had a few other men that she was kind of close with. In other words, let's just say it out loud. The wife of Bath is a woman who enjoys men. Now, for 1400, this is a radical thing to say. There's this assumption often that women kind of don't like sex. Men like sex, and women kind of like, well, whatever, if I got to put up with it. Chaucer is going to say, no, no, no. This wife of Bath, she loved to be with men. She'd already been married 5 times. They were all dead, and she was looking for her 6th husband. And then there was as well a few other men that she knew, but we won't get into that. You know how some people do that, where they will kind of just say something, and then they go, but we're not going to get into that, which is enough to be able to say, to make the people listening go, whoa, whoa, wait, what do you mean you're not going to get into it? Why aren't you going to get into it? No, I'm not interested. Of course, that's what Chaucer's playing a game here. Obviously setting us up. Obviously we want to know, what kind of story does the wife of Bath tell? It is one of the 2 stories that we will study. We'll study the partner's tale. We'll study the wife of Bath's tale. And it will be for us a tale or a story that will lead to all kinds of major discussion and debate, right? And so she had thrice been to Jerusalem. Let's write this down. She's traveled like the knight, who we would understand would, of course, travel as a knight going to battles and that kind of thing. She's been on pilgrimage. Notice we are told she had been 3 different times to Jerusalem from England. Now, that's a monumental journey, so let's write this down right away. We are talking about a very special woman. A woman of tremendous strength and courage to take a trip as a woman all the way from England to Jerusalem on pilgrimage. That's a big dog deal. To do it 3 times, that is a huge deal. So let's keep going. Seen, I'm at line 474. Seen many strange rivers and passed over them. She'd been to Rome and also to Bologna. In other words, she's traveled all over the world. She's gone to Cologne, and she was skilled in wandering by the way. Let's go ahead and jot that down. She was skilled in wandering by the way. In other words, she is a journeyer. She is a person who loves to take journeys and go places, right? She is a world traveler. Now, this is not as unusual today. We have, of course, students who graduate and say, In my summer, after my senior year, I'm going to travel. But I often will say this to my students, go home this afternoon and just walk up to the people who are responsible for you and say, after graduating, I'm going to take the summer and I'm simply going to travel Europe and stay in student hostels and watch their face. Most of your parents will look at you and say, two things. One, how are you going to pay for it? And two, I'm not so sure that's a really wise idea because it's not so safe to travel. That's today. It was a lot more unsafe to travel back then, especially for a woman, and we're told she loves to travel. Note the irony of this. Here she is traveling with them on the way to Canterbury, right? So in other words, we've got a good example of a woman pretty strong-minded. Let's write that one down. The wife of Bath, very strong-minded, we will say. She had gap teeth that set apart, we're told, set widely, truth to say. Easily on an ambling horse she sat, well wimpled up, and on her head a hat as broad as is a bucket or a shield. She loved big hats. She was good at riding horses. In other words, this is a woman who has many of the manly graces. She knows how to ride a pony. She wears a big hat. Let's go ahead and write this down. The wife of Bath likes to call attention to herself. The way she dresses. She likes to show up at school wearing things that everyone's going to go, whoa, did you see what she had on? Right? She likes that. She likes to draw attention to herself by the way she dresses. She has, we might say it this way, tremendous self-confidence. Right? Now we will sometimes ask this question. Often we will ask this question about high school students. Why is it some students can show up at high school wearing anything? They will wear the most amazingly creative and crazy outfits. Right? And other students will like show up to be invisible. Right? They just don't want anybody. Just don't look at me. Don't look at me. Whatever you do, don't say anything. How come some students show up and they love to be looked at? They love to be the center of attention by virtue of the way they dress. The wife of Bath is one of those kinds of people. She had a flowing mantle that concealed large hips. Her heels spurred sharply under that. In company she liked to laugh and chat and knew the remedies for love's mischances, an art in which she knew the oldest dances. In other words, let's write this down. She is an alchemist of sorts. She knows how to mix potions together to help people to fall in love. Okay? So the wife of Bath is an extremely important creation for us. She will be valuable for us in conversations of the feminist critique as we get into our conversations in Senior English, and more particularly, write this down in your note, Chaucer's attack on the patriarchy. Chaucer's attack on the patriarchy. Now, what is the patriarchy? The Aristotelian understanding that men run the world and women have to do what men tell them to do. That is a very old concept. In Chaucer's day, that was the accepted understanding. Men ran the world and women had to do what men told them to do. The wife of Bath is going to be the very first creative kind of character in Chaucer's group who will say, no, I don't think so. Don't tell me what to do, even if you are a man and I'm a woman. In fact, I'm going to tell you what to do because I am a woman. Whoa, whoa, whoa. There are going to be a whole lot of men on this entourage that will say they have a real problem with that. Let's point this out, by the way. One last observation. In our group of travelers, who are the women? Well, think about this for a moment. In our group of travelers, who are the women? We've met a nun prioress. We're told there's a couple of other nuns with her that aren't even named. And then there's this woman, the wife of Bath. There are only two women in the entourage of all these men. The one is a nun who we are told is a good nun. That means no hanky-panky, right? And then we have the wife of Bath, who loves to be with men. Already had 5 husbands and is looking for her 6th. So when she, for example, begins to start telling her story, she's going to say some things that will offend a lot of the men in this group, especially the religious men. Okay? So we were going to want to pay attention to this, and obviously we're going to be very interested in this wife of Bath story. We'll get to it in a little bit. Thank you.